Linda staff is doing the summary report of this general conference, as they did the summary report of the two IPRS meetings of yesterday and of Sunday. Then we put these reports on the website of Intersteno and on the IPRS website. So you can access them after the conference in how many days? Tomorrow. By tomorrow, yes. So by yesterday, in real time. Let me also remind you that the podcast recording of this general conference and of the IPRS meetings with subtitles, with pre-recorded subtitles in English, will be made available on the website of Intersteno with the compliments of Per Voice. We have listened to a speech by Alessandro Toscari, who is the CEO of Per Voice, and on air, represented here by Francesca. Now, Linda, you have something for me? Yes. Linda is well, many of you know who Linda is, but let me tell the audience. Linda is a court reporter from Georgia in southeastern United States. She's past president of NVRA, the National Verbatim Reporters Association. She has been voice writing since 1987 or 2? Yeah, 2. And has used speech recognition since 1991. We have different ways of writing numbers. We will listen to her in a minute once we would have solved technical issues.
Oh, I can start.
But she can start.
I will start by saying I can speak very rapidly. I will do my best to not speak very rapidly. But in my job, what I do to make the record is repeat behind every speaker what they're saying, and I identify them, and I add punctuation. So when people are having a conversation in a deposition or a trial, I am saying everything they say very, very quickly and very quietly. So I had intended to show you, let's see, this screen is open. This is the way I work. And so if I talk into my steno mask, and let's see if I can read anything here. Let me just read something and we'll see what happens. Okay, so that's what I'm doing, and you notice that it is dropping really slowly on the screen. This program is Dragon version 12. I prefer the earlier versions, which drop a little more rapidly, but the recognition is pretty good. So you couldn't hear me, of course you're not standing next to me, but what I'm going to try to do is play a file that I have already recorded during my regular work. And hopefully you will be able to hear both the audio and my voice. And then we can talk about, my screen is not showing you everything I would like for it to. Over at the far right-hand side is a little table where I can put in what we call tokens or on-the-fly translations. So if I am in a job and they begin talking about Freightliner trucks, I don't necessarily want to say Freightliner trucks all the time. So I type in those words, and then all I have to say is Gen 1, which is my marker. So that shortens things up for me a little bit. I also use brief forms much the same way that stenographic reporters do. I abbreviate phrases that come up frequently in my work. For instance, I work in the Southern District of Georgia. And so when I'm taking grand jury proceedings, they say that about every 3 paragraphs. And so I decided I would shorten that and not have to have that mouthful of words. So I say DISTO, D-I-S-T-O. And it expands to Southern District of Georgia very nicely. Very infrequently do I make a mistake on that one, since it's where I live and work. I also have brief forms for regular phrases like I don't know, I don't care, is that right, is that correct, some of those endings. And with the software that I use in addition to Dragon, I use another port reporting software program. I can define those entries and insert punctuation. So a lot of times when someone starts a sentence with well or now and a comma has to follow, I don't have to put that. And at the end of a sentence or at the end of a question, is that correct? I've already got that there with the semicolon, so I don't have to do any of that punctuation, which speeds me up a little bit, allows me to go a little faster. This is off the cuff, so I'm kind of making it up as I go along here. I lost my train of thought. I was going to tell you something else about brief forms. But we'll go on to, let me see if I can close out of this real quick. I don't know if you can hear the audio in this.
You're in the military. Listen. Yes, sir. 1993. Charge. I've led 285 units. Yes, sir.
I don't think it'll help.
Medical history, but do you suffer from any sort of that?
Oh, that's better.
I'm pretty good. Nothing to see the doctor for.
Okay. What you're hearing is the audio track of that particular proceeding. And now let's go back and see if you can hear, hopefully, my dictation. You see what's on the screen. Here, let's start right here. Oh, well, it's of course going to have to load the file, so that's going to take a second. Hopefully it's loading. Come on, play. Well, this isn't going to work. It works when it's not hooked up to that.
Yes, we have a question.
Maybe Lita, you could just show us in the microphone how you speak to your stepmom.
I can do that, except I'm not used to speaking out loud. I use a whisper. Okay, so when I'm taking down and using brief forms, I would say something like, and I'm going to have to try and figure out how to whisper out loud for you. Please state your name for the record. Okay, my name is Linda Queen. This is Draco. Where do you live? Cat, I live in Savannah, Georgia. Queen, do you have any children? Cat, yes, I do. Queen. Okay, so I'm identifying question and answer.
I can.
That's fine. You can
deal with
hold.
this.
What I wanted to tell you was, back to my train of thought that suddenly appeared in my head. When I began court reporting, there was no speech recognition available. And so what I did was go into a deposition or hearing and repeat every word and record my voice. And as a backup, I also recorded the room audio. Then when I went home, I typed from my voice. So it was very important that I dictated every word, no matter what the speed was. And in those days, I didn't really use a whole lot of punctuation because I was pretty new and things were pretty fast. And, so it was pretty much, state your name for the record, my name is so-and-so, where do you live, my address is. With the advent of speech recognition, it became very important to identify speakers and identify punctuation because that gave the speech engine context, which helped, and I used Dragon, The other software available is Via Voice, and I tried it and it didn't like me, so I quit using it. But Dragon seems to understand me very well. So I began in 1997 using speech recognition, and as the versions have evolved, I think I was either on version 1 or version 2. We're now on 12 and 12.5, and I actually like 10 and 11 a lot better. They seem to do a lot better for my use, which is court reporting. The bigger versions, 12 now is a big version, and it takes into account more words on either side of the one word that I want it to recognize. And sometimes it's a little bit too intuitive and seems to put things on the screen that I don't want, or finish phrases that are in its lexicon that I don't want. So right now, and I'd love to compete in the real-time task test, except that I helped Terry with it, so I can't. Oh well. And no, don't kick me off that committee and put me to the test. Dragon does not do very well at higher speeds. And so when you're taking a contest, it's fine when I'm dictating in a really fast proceeding, because you go up, you go down, the engine catches up with you and words drop on the screen. But in a real-time contest, where in this particular instance the speed is building minute by minute, there's no hope that Dragon is going to be able to keep up with that. It's going to push out words, and occasionally it's going to have some very correct lines, but the faster we speak, and as I am a whisperer, I tend to have a lot of word boundary issues. So if I say issues, I'm just as likely to get his shoes on my screen as I am issues. So one of the ways for me to correct that is to make an entry in my dictionary that says, if it comes up his shoes, let me pick if I want that or the word issues. So there are ways around this technology, but we still have a little bit of a ways to go in terms of having really, truly dead-on accuracy. So my point is that no matter what it looks like on my screen, if I've had a rotten day with recognition, when I go home, I still have more on the screen than I had to start with, number one. And number two, I have my voice to listen to. And even though it hasn't translated very well on the screen, I can go back and get every single word from my dictation, because that's my job. That's how I make the record. So I don't rely on audio unless in a situation like, say I'm in a deposition today and my screen's stuck and I've got nothing. And my attorney would say, well, I certainly hope you've got my record, because I just, I'm paying you to be here for 5 hours and I hope it's not lost. Well, no, then I have a backup. But when I'm working, I actually have more than one backup. So I generally have my voice being digitally recorded into my computer. I run a separate backup into another digital recorder. And then I sometimes have a cassette. I know I'm old, but I like to see the wheels turn to make sure something's being recorded. So I generally have that backup going on as well. So I know that I can play whatever. And of course, has this come up yet? No. Let me see. Wait 1 second. Okay, no, I'm still getting just the, I don't know where the file went, but it won't come up. I wanted you to be able to hear my voice. But as I gave you the example, that's what I'm doing. And if I go really, really fast, I've tested at 300 words a minute and successfully achieved that designation, and that was question and answer. So I don't know if I can do it extemporaneously.
You can try.
I can try. Well, let me give you an example of one of my fast attorneys in grand jury. He would walk in the room and say, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My name is Darren McCullough. I'm an assistant United States attorney in the Southern District of Georgia. I have for your... I'm sorry. I'm going to present a 2-count indictment in the Southern District Savannah Division. There are 2 defendants. I'm going a little bit slow to help you out. I also have one attorney who does what we call stipulations before the deposition begins. And my favorite story about him is he talks really, really fast, and I've done him for so long that I can do it without taking a breath. So he walks in and he'll say, "Let the record show this is the deposition of Mrs. Steininger is being taken in accordance with all the applicable rules in the Georgia civil courts and the workers' compensation and longshore harbor workers." He goes on to say, "Request the original deposition be forwarded to yours truly. I'll take responsibility for filing the same should that be necessary and forward copy to counsel should that be necessary." So when he finishes, the other attorneys generally sit there and go. And so one day looked at me and said, "What did he say?" And I said, "He said, let the record show this is the deposition of your client, taken in accordance with all these rules. He'll take responsible for the original and give you a copy if that's necessary. Any additional stipulations?" And she said, "No, but I don't know how you understand him." I said, "That's because I talk really fast too." So that's what we do, is speak really, really quietly, really, really quickly, identify speakers, add punctuation, use brief forms. We do most of the same kinds of jobs that stenographic reporters do. I also occasionally transcribe audio tapes for my good clients, which I don't really like to do because it's so much easier for me when I've been there, but occasionally I will do it. I report professional meetings. I recently did a very interesting focus group at a hospital where all of the patients were also employees at the hospital, so it was very interesting to hear them talk about their own experiences being patients in their own hospital. And I have to say that out of 12 people, on a scale of 1 to 10 on the cleanliness of the hospital, the highest was a ranking of 5. I won't be, hopefully, a patient there anytime soon. We also, I do meetings for the United States Forestry Commission. Savannah has some various agencies that I report their meetings. I work in federal grand jury. I do the occasional federal magistrate trial. We work in Superior Court, and then I do a lot of depositions and freelance work. So it's a wonderful occupation. Love everything about the profession. Love meeting all of you different colleagues here and understanding the way you work. And I hope I've given you a little bit of insight about how I work. And if you have any questions, and I apologize that this is not opening up. If you want to come up here and maybe I can get it to work a little bit better one-on-one, we might be able to do that. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those. Yes, ma'am.
Did you ever have problems with your voice? I mean, complaints because you do a lot of whispering.
Oh, that people could hear me?
No. Yeah, pain or
the throat.
Your voice is gone or.
Actually, I think the best recognition I've ever had is when I had laryngitis and I was not able to make barely a sound. And the less that goes into the mask, really, I use a mask, I don't know if you can see this, I use a mask that has a very, very small microphone in it. My mask has a very small microphone in it, and I don't know if you can see, there's a little white dot on the side, which is how you adjust the noise level in the microphone. So because I whisper, it's a very sensitive mic, and because I whisper, I have it turned down pretty low. But when I have laryngitis and I'm just barely able to utter a sound into it, it seems to just love it. So I don't really ask to be sick, but I try really hard to speak very, very quietly into it. And I haven't, people say, I think the speech therapists talk about not whispering, that it puts a lot of strain on your vocal cords. And I guess that I'm somewhere between a whisper and a very, very low voice. What we tell people is, and I was telling Francois earlier, you have to talk like you're over a sleeping baby and you don't want that baby to wake up. So you are really just going, so you use a very, very low voice, still a little bit of vocal cord, probably not enough whisper to strain it.
And how long can you manage to
Keep talking?
Keep talking.
My usual day in a grand jury proceeding is we start at 9. We take an hour break at 11:30, and at 12:30 I'm back in, and we may go until 6:30. So I work all day.
That's enough to keep your concentration.
Yes. I think with voice writing, probably with stenography too, but with me, it comes in my ear, and I repeat it, and I don't really register in here. And sometimes I give the example. I was working one day, and it was a divorce matter, and they were talking about, the lady said, well, he was angry because I didn't take something out of the freezer for dinner. And I thought, ooh, I didn't take anything out of the freezer either. I'm going to have to go by the grocery store now. And so I'm having this little conversation in my head while I'm still talking, so I've divided my brain into having it come in my ear, go out my mouth, and the rest of me is, working on something else, thinking, when will these people stop talking and I can go home? So, other question? Yes, sir?
From your contacts with people doing the same job, did you...
From my contacts with people doing the same job, did I?
Did you heard or acknowledge that the male voice works not as good as the female voice?
Okay, have I heard that the male voice works not as well as the female voice?
Yes.
My experience, I have heard that, and my experience has been with several of the men I know who do use speech silencers. They are loud, much louder than I am. They don't seem to be able to drop their voices down to as tight a whisper as I can do. So maybe work with an open headset. That'll work.
Okay.
If you work with a headset, then you can speak out loud, but not with a silencer so much. Although I think it's possible, but I have heard that the male voice is not as adaptable. Someone else? Ma'am?
I don't have any idea how many people does the same work like you in your country.
Okay, her question was, I don't have any idea how many people like you do the same work in your country. Do I have any idea? Using voice. That's what I do. I repeat. Yeah. My husband doesn't argue with me. I can always give him his words right back. And if he says I'm wrong, I'll say, prove it. In my state, in Georgia, we have roughly 1,200 court reporters, and half of those are voice writers. So I don't think we have a really good estimate of the number of voice writers in the United States. My association, the National Verbatim Reporters Association, is very small compared to NCRA. It has probably about 800 members. And a lot of that, and I will say, you've got 500, 600 reporters in Georgia, and only 800 people are members of NVRA. I would say there are probably less than 100 people in Georgia who belong to NVRA. So it's not a really good count to just say, there are only 800 in the association. There are many states that don't require any licensure, any certification, which is one thing that my association and NCRA both work really hard to provide for reporters. So there are states where there are a lot of reporters who are probably using voice that we just don't know about because there's no list and there's no license to find. So, the estimates I've heard range from, if you take the states where voice writers are more prevalent, you could probably say 10,000. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, because, and I've asked, occasionally I've asked the speech recognition companies if they can share with me how many clients they have, and they won't, so it's a guess. But anybody? Jim, you have a question for me?
No.
You don't? Come on, I was counting on you.
Okay, I think the time is over.
Okay, thank you.
Let's
Sorry that
thank
this wouldn't work.
Linda.
Oh, thank you. Let's see if I can use this thing.
I would like to add something because in Intersteno the fight in technologies was very hard, very sharp during centuries. Effectively, at the beginning, the stenographer using handwriting were against stenotypists. Stenotypists were against stenotypists using cut. Stenotypists were against speech recognition. Through mutual understanding, Intersteno has now, let's say, a quite reliable situation in which we appreciate any kind of technology. And in our competition, there is no difference in the evaluation. And you will see the classification list, and you can see the classification list of the last 20 years at least, and you will see which means were used. About speech recognition, I would recall that we had since a few days ago here several people coming from Italy, from Czech Republic, who has used this means to be in the speech capturing competition and real-time competition also, and audio transcription competition, which was presented for the first time this year. We will see the results. I don't know the results. We will be able to evaluate. Italy brought in a group of about 10 people using speech recognition. Yeah? Okay? And the other were using stereotype, or we can say that Italy has competed with all technologies, that is, with traditional shorthand, with stereotype, with speech recognition, and of course, this is not an advertisement or a commercial that I make for Italy, because every country has contributed to this. I would like to underline that in this room we have two champions who used speech recognition, Fabrizio Verruso in Vienna and Armando Covello in Paris, who reached the last minutes of the Italian competition, which was at the speed of about 490 syllables, which is more than 200 words, Italian words. So this is the experience that we have in the industry.
Thank you, Gianpaolo. The computer, Little Drake's computer, has come back to life.
We think.
So, before letting Laura speaking with a male voice, and you'll understand later why I'm telling this, we'd like to make a demo.
Is that enough?
Yes.
I can't get to the. I just wanted to show you what a transcript looks like as I'm working in it. So, and you hear me saying things like JCAM, JQuI. Those are codes for me to enter certain things. So instead of saying yes sir, I just say yes code. Instead of saying no sir, I say JCAM. So just, that's why you hear things that don't sound like words. So glad it came up finally.
Thank you very much, Lisa.